Everybody, welcome to another episode of Arm Talk. I'm your host, Jody Williams. Hey, it's very, very early in the morning, but that doesn't stop us because this morning, my guest is a guy who really turned some heads last weekend in Athol, Idaho in the arm wrestling event. Everybody, I give you Luke. And Luke, how do you pronounce your last name?
It's Prochnow.
Prochnow. So, Luke, I'm going to tell you something, man. I was very impressed with your performance last weekend. And the eye test, we all have, as a guy who does sports, there's always that eye test. Like, oh, when I first saw you, I was like, uh-oh, this guy looks pretty thick, looks pretty big. And then the next question was, okay, well, what weight class is he in? We all were talking, all of us guys from work, and we're talking, kind of going, this guy might be some trouble. We have to bring our A game. So tell everybody out there, as you told me before we went live, about the arm wrestling aspect of it. How'd you get into it?
Well, okay, so I'm 43 years old now. I started arm wrestling when I was a teenager. Me and my best friends, had an uncle or something that would competed. So he taught them how to arm wrestle. They taught me. We used to dominate. I would arm wrestle guys twice as big as me, twice as strong as me. I remember when I was 17, this guy, their brother, got out of the pen, and he was just jacked. Had like 50 pounds of solid muscle, undefeated in the pen, arm wrestling. I arm wrestled him, slammed him down with a press. Like, mind was blown. We did it like 3 more times. Anyway, so I've had this passion for arm wrestling ever since I was a teenager. It's been on my bucket list to see, okay, how good am I really? Because I do know this. You can compete locally against the biggest guys. That doesn't really mean crap, because the best guys in the world, they're just on another level. You get to a pro, they're on another level.
Right.
I used to be into boxing, also dominated, most guys when it trained with professional boxers. I did hang. I didn't get my butt kicked.
Right.
You know what I mean? At that point, I was just a heavyweight boxer sparring with another heavyweight boxer, toe-to-toe. So at a pro level, I knew it was totally different. I wanted to, see. So it's been on my bucket list for over 20 years. I just now, about 11, 12 weeks ago, decided to pull the trigger and try to become the best arm wrestler I can possibly be.
Well, before that, didn't you get into some bodybuilding too?
Yes. So bodybuilding was my first goal. So I have been into bodybuilding and really got into bodybuilding way more than anything for a while, especially in my 30s. That's all I did was compete in bodybuilding. I started out, lower 200s. Everyone told me I'd never be a super heavyweight. Everyone told me I had to compete in the 198s. So my first contest, I'll never forget it. I couldn't make my weight class. I couldn't get down. I dropped 20 pounds of water in like 12 hours or something.
Whoa.
I bought packs of gum and just spit and walk. I think I almost died. After weigh-ins, I freaked out. My mind snapped. I went nuts, and I gained like 20 pounds overnight. The next morning, of course, I didn't look my best. Anyways, I stopped listening to all the haters and decided, you know what? I'm just going to go in there and do the best I can at the weight class I can. And I slowly worked my way up. The next contest was super heavyweights. I got second place, and I basically battled for the next 4 years before I finally was able to get first place as a super heavyweight in all the local divisions here in Washington.
Nice.
In Idaho. At that point, in order to take it to the next level, honestly, anybody into bodybuilding, anybody knows, goes to the gym, already knows this. In the NPC at the top level, especially for bodybuilding, it's more about how much gear do you want to take. Now,
right.
Do you have to work hard? Yes. Do you have to have all the genetics? Yes. But after that is how much do you want to supplement to get to the next level? So I was right there. I had this other coach, top level coach, come in and say, hey, listen, I know how to take you to the next level. And it was basically adding some growth hormone, which, you can weigh the pros and cons of everything, but I was already taking so much stuff at the time. I could feel it, mentally wasn't a positive thing. Plus, when you add a bunch, and not too many people talk about this, when you add a bunch of muscle mass that is not natural, your heart is going to beat extra fast. So you're going to breathe hard. Everything you do. I used to snore just sitting there. I'll be like, I would do it. I would just be sitting there.
Right.
I didn't feel that good. You know what I mean? I could still jog and stuff, but I definitely didn't feel my best. I definitely didn't want to take more. At that time, I decided to just be healthy. I was on gear for like 5 years. And it's been said, a lot of people say your natural testosterone levels will never fully rebound. From my personal experience, I think if you work hard, if you're on for a year, it's going to take at least a year to get back. 2 years, so forth. So 5 years, it's going to take about 5 years just to try to get back to where you were.
Right.
If you didn't. And I do think, as a side note, once you experience that kind of recovery and strength, you take that away, you're never quite going to be the same. So if you plan on being natural in the long run, I would never touch gear. If you plan on staying on for the rest of your life, then that's your business. It definitely helps get you lean and get you jacked and helps with your strength, you know.
Right.
But for me, the pros and cons, I'll tell you this, it's just a mindset for me. My number one goal as I get older is just I want to feel good, you know, and I want to, you know, be able to run up a hill and stuff like that and just feel good.
Well, I'll tell you what, in our sport, and I've been in this sport since 2011, so this is about year number 12 for me. And when I first got into it, you know, the PEDs were around, but it was kind of like don't ask, don't tell kind of deal. But now in the last year or so, everyone's more, you know, open about it. And, you know, we just like you said, when it comes to bodybuilding, when you get to that elite level, you know, if you want to compete or you want to be the top dog or whatnot, you know, at some point you got to dabble in that kind of stuff. I think now in our sport, it kind of bleeds down to like people who may not be elite, but they're trying to be elite. And they think, okay, this is the route for me to get there. And for some it works, some it don't, you know. But is it true, like as far as bodybuilding, that, okay, either you want to be top dog or you're wasting your time where I have to go ahead and go down the PED path? Is that accurate?
It's a little bit tricky, but in bodybuilding, and this is just totally my opinion, I feel like in bodybuilding, if you want to compete, even in the NPC, you have to. One of the good example, we had this natural professional bodybuilder, top natural professional bodybuilder around Spokane, right?
Yeah.
His head, just huge ego. And anyway, so he came in, decided to compete at this local show that really didn't mean anything. Wasn't even a national qualifier, right? He got 5th place.
Wow.
His butt was hurt. And of course, he went on a rampage on the you know, on all the forums saying it's just a steroid thing. Well, the thing is, they have natural shows.
Yeah.
Specifically for natural guys. If you compete in NPC, it's known everybody's on. I mean, everybody that's doing good is on. It's just known you're doing everything you can, healthy or not, and it's not healthy. To get that lean isn't healthy either. It's really an unhealthy sport. I can see the appeal. I love looking ripped, but it's not healthy. Anyways, to get to that level, it's standard. It's standard.
Right.
And, you know, anybody that speaks honestly is going to say, you know, the same thing. For bodybuilding.
So, I mean, how does that, when you go to his events, right? Let's just say you have a tested event. Like you said, there are tested events there. I mean, does the actual organization, as the athletes come in, are they being tested the day before? How does that work out? Because I've always wondered, like in arm wrestling, it's kind of tested, but it's kind of not. It's like a random draw. Because when you have nationals and worlds, you know, it's a tested event. All the other organizations are not. But how do you tell? Because I know it costs money. So, if, for example, how does that work?
I'll tell you this. If there's a guy that looks big and ripped, he's not doing a natural show. You won't see him. Google natural bodybuilding show competitors, look at all the top guys, and then switch just to like the NPC. One looks like you're massive freaks, and one look like a string bean that just, you know, ran a marathon and got too skinny. There is no comparison to natural shows.
Which is probably look like physique pullers. They look like physique athletes.
No, not even that.
Really?
Not even that. Yeah, you have to check it out. Compare yourself. It's not close. Could a natural guy look jacked and good? Yeah, I think I can get like right now my body fat, I'm 198 pounds lean, like with no fat, right? So if I got down to like 3% fat, I could look pretty mean right now. But the thing is, as a natural guy, you're going to lose a lot more muscle as you diet. And two, the guys that are really into it know what it takes to keep your muscle and get ripped. They're not competing in natural shows. They want to be the best. They don't want to just be call themselves. They don't want to be a natural guy. Being a natural guy in the bodybuilding community really isn't cool in the gym. You want to be the biggest and you want to be ripped.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? You don't want to be like, oh, I'm a natural guy, street ball. Kind of like that one guy that thought he was cool and then he competed with everyone else locally and just got his butt handed to him. No one wants to be that guy. So all the top guys, it is what it is. You know, it's standard.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's really an eye-opener. Then when you cross over to like an arm wrestling and stuff, it's kind of like, okay, I could take my hours of work in the gym, 3 to 4 hours a day, and see if I can do this thing in sports. Because I tell you what, you were looking very, intimidating to say the least, intense. I'm thinking, okay, how much did you weigh that last weekend?
I weighed, so my goal, so because of my bodybuilding, I got really good at weighing, meeting weight goals. And plus, I've been training now for like 27 years, helping people out professionally for like 13 years. So my goal going in, I wanted to weigh 242 at the top of my scale. And then what I do is I restrict my morning, my water, and my meals if I'm close. And then I brought a sweatsuit so I could sweat some weight off. And then I also have an extreme hydration drink afterwards, which means a bunch of sea salt, amino acids, some extra potassium from tartar. Anyways, I weighed in exactly at 242 to the ounce. I mean, it was to the ounce my goal. So right off the bat, I was pretty pumped because it's hard to hit to the ounce. You know what I mean? Usually it's within a couple pounds, and then I got to adjust.
Right.
So I was pretty pumped.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. And I tell you what, when I saw you competing and stuff, and I was like, oh, this guy, if he sticks with it. And then I was talking with Doug Goodman, and I've known Doug ever since I got into the sport. He says, oh, yeah, he's a nice guy. He trains with us now. He's going to start really, putting his all into this. I'm thinking, okay. And I thought, once all the guys from Oregon, like myself, once we left, I'm on a car ride home, and I'm talking to my wife. I'm like, you know what? With David and Brennan and Jason and Doug and all the rest of the guys, all the Miller brothers and all that kind of stuff, if those guys stick with it, that's going to be a mean team. And then it dawned on me like 2 weeks, I guess it'll be next weekend now, up in Pocatello, Idaho, the Idaho State Championships are going to take place. Do you plan on competing in that?
Well, I did think about it after you asked me too, and I already know I was going to add to my coach, but I already know what he's going to say, and I totally agree with him. I am physically not ready for it. The thing is, arm wrestling, I train to keep the stress off my tendons.
Right.
So I focus on muscle contraction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've never tried to work my tendons, so they are freaking weak. Even going into the event, I took 2 weeks off from anything heavy, just rehab stuff for 2 weeks going to the event.
Yeah.
My arm Saturday morning hurt. Like I was nervous. My shoulder hurt, my elbow hurt, my wrist hurt. It was like the whole thing was angry and was telling me, don't try to max out. You're still injured. But I was going to give it my best, obviously, anyways, and I, blocked that out. But my body, needs, I feel like quite a few more months. From the research I've done, the soonest people are saying is around 9 months. But I've had some people say years. I think I'm going to give myself at least 9 months before going 100% against somebody that is big enough to, break my arm, basically.
Well, the thing is about this sport is it's real because everyone's different. Everyone's built different. Genetics are different. I think I went 6 months before I started, competing in the open class. I think, once I got to a point where I was taking either first or second, and that was it. I never took first or second in the novice division. After that, I was like, you know what? It's time for me to stick my toe in the water with the big boys and just see how I do. Then I started taking fourth and fifth, and gradually I started going up, and now I'm kind of up there. And it takes some dedication, but I know it's more tendon strength than muscle strength. Now, don't get me wrong, having muscle, it ain't gonna hurt nobody. But at the same time, you really want to focus on the tendons because when you're competing, and you'll probably know about this, your adrenaline is going, so you feel nothing. But I tell you what, when you wake up Sunday morning, you're like, what the hell just happened? And then for some reason, that second day, that Monday, is always like, dude, what is going on? Tell us your experience about when you woke up the next day.
From the contest?
Yeah.
I'll be honest, it was weak sauce. I woke up the next day at 4 a.m. and I freaking maxed out on like everything for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Now after that, I was like, oh man, my arm freaking hurt bad. But I woke up and honestly, I didn't feel like I did anything. Matter of fact, when I woke up Sunday morning, my arm felt better than it did Saturday morning.
Oh, okay.
But at practice, I've had my arm hurt so bad that I thought, I had to have freaking surgery. Like it gets so painful. And then for me, because one of my habits, and I'm trying to work on this, is I do train too hard in the gym sometimes.
Right.
Meaning I tend to give too much too often. And I know I've kind of set myself back a little bit with some of my strength gains because I'll honestly work in the gym until my arm I'll have to massage gun my arm just to move it, But back to the competition, honestly, for this last one, it was nothing. I really didn't do anything during the competition. No offense to anyone.
Right.
That's the way it was. I do have a question on the competition, if you know.
Yes.
So there's the first guy I arm wrestled. He had a super match that day.
Oh, yeah.
What was he doing in novice?
The super match, a lot of the guys were novice. All the Idaho guys were basically novice anyway, which means they probably have one, maybe two tournaments under their belt. And how that whole thing started was that they Doug, because Doug is the connection, and he knew all of us here in Oregon. So he was telling his guys, hey, if you want to train and you want to be good, challenge some of these guys from Oregon. So David Till kind of laid out the foundation, got it going between him and I, and then it kind of followed suit against the other three guys, or the other three guys in Oregon. So we had the super match, and then all of a sudden, we competed. So I know Jason Foster has never ever competed in a tournament at all. So he never competed. So this was his first super match was like, okay, it was like deer in the headlights maybe. So and he was
makes more sense.
Right. He pulled Nick Maurer. Nick Maurer's about 365 pounds. So you saw Big Nick, So yeah. So it's one of those situations. But I hope you guys stick with it, because I think if you guys, there's a lot of power there, a lot of commitment there, and I know you told us a second ago that sometimes you have a habit that you need to break about going to the max. But I think it's just that mentality. Like, you've been involved in NPC bodybuilding, that okay, I gotta take it to the max every day, because if I don't, somebody else is, and I'll be damned if I take second place. And it's that mentality. Do you think that's true?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think hard work and intensity is one of the most. I think the most important is probably genetics.
Yeah.
Because if good genetics works really hard, that's going to take over supplementation or anything.
Yeah.
But after genetics, it takes a lot of hard work. So if you have the best genetics in the world, you're still going to have to work just as many hours as the other guy with good genetics. So whatever he's doing, you're going to have to do at least that much. But
right.
Maybe your genetics aren't quite as good, so you're going to have to do more. And I do believe your body will always return what you put in, you're going to get back. I know with lifting, it's pretty simple. It always gives back. Normally when I lift, I'm hardly ever sore, but when I am, I'll actually hit a body part until I'm not sore anymore. So let's say I do biceps and my biceps are sore. I'll be like, man, woke up the next morning, biceps are sore. I'll actually hit my biceps for the next week, and then finally they won't be sore anymore.
Oh, wow.
Well, I tried with arm wrestling training. It doesn't work that way, because your tendons and ligaments, man, they don't heal up the same as your muscles do. So
no.
It's a crazy new training system for me. So I noticed like 3/4 of my training sometimes can be rehab, nowadays, just to get my body conditioned, which I know as my tendons get stronger, I'll be able to do more of the heavy resistance training and less of the rehab. But I think rehab's getting your tendons strong is always going to be part of the game. I think Todd Hutchins said that was his number one thing, just getting his tendon strength out.
So do you work with bands at all, or is it just straight weights?
Man, I do so I'm a big believer so I like to study all the top professional arm wrestlers or anybody that's proven they're above me.
Right.
I'm going to study what they do, and I'm going to, if they say, hey, this is important, do this, I'm going to do it.
Right.
Everybody. You know what I mean? So everyone's going to have a different opinion. Just like in bodybuilding nutrition, you find out when you get into fitness, there's tons of people, and they say, this is the only way to do it.
Yeah.
You have the person that says the opposite. This is the only way to do it. Well, they're contradicting each other. What's the truth? The truth is normally somewhere in the middle. But the real truth is everyone's different. Everyone's going to respond differently to different techniques. You're going to respond better to some techniques. Those should be your bread and butter.
Yeah.
But do everything that the top people say, because it's not going to hurt you. If you have time, it's only going to benefit you.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Once you get deep into our sport, you'll realize you're running to people who and we'll take Michael Todd and Todd Hutchins, right? They're constantly in the gym. Hey, and Todd Hutchins, he'll probably train like maybe once, maybe twice on the table, but then he has a speed day, max day, volume day. All his stuff is on his YouTube channel, so you can go that route. Some other guys like Devin Larrett, John Brezink, they don't touch the weight as much, and they can't do as their numbers are not high as far as the weights, but it's constant table time, and that's how they do it. So basically, if you want to get into sport, try everything and then find out what works best for you. And then once you figure it out, then go ahead and go balls to the walls and go, hey, this is what I'm gonna do. So that's how we figure things out in our sport.
Definitely agree. And you tell me this if it's true. This is from my experience so far. Number one, I've studied.
Yep.
The number one thing always, and some of the top guys, I can't remember his name right now, he says specifically, this is all he does. Table time is always the most important. It's going to trump anything you can do in the gym always.
I would agree to a certain degree. And I say that because the fact that you got to realize having muscle and power is always good. It's never going to hurt you, right? But you can have all the handles in the world, right? And this is what I fight with because the team I train with here, it's summertime. So a lot of them, and we're family guys. So a lot of them right now are on vacations and they're doing things with their kids and families and that kind of stuff. But we train every Saturday, you know. Today we got the day off because some of us are doing other stuff. But you don't get that same kind of tension and movement in the gym that you do on the table, if that makes sense. So if you and I, Luke, were on the table, I can go a certain way that you won't get that at a pulley station with a handle, right? I mean, it's just pretty much either north or south or east and west where, you know, I may compete with you. I may pull you like a northeast or a southwest, that angle. You don't get that on in the gym, you know, in the table. Another thing, too, is pretty, you know, once you cup your wrist and just go, that's it. You don't have a gym pulley system that takes your wrist out of commission or out of the same movement. So, yeah, to a certain degree, it does work. However, what I've tried to do is that I work my stuff over and over, get strong at specific movements. That way, when it's time to get to the table, then I know for a fact, and I got my dry erase board in my garage, is it actually working? You know, does that make sense?
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Yep. So that's what I pretty much do here. So I got my own stuff. I got my bench press and I got my pulley system and I got a table in there and I got, you know, enough handles that I can even, you know, talk about. I got the tricep bar. I do all that kind of stuff. And what I try to do is that depending on what tournament I'm going to, what super match I have coming up, I will train specific movements just for that. So I know for a fact when I was getting ready for Idaho and I was pulling David, right? And I knew, you know, some of the videos I saw from him, very, very strong guy, very powerful guy. So for me, I had to go, okay, I got to make sure my hand and wrist is, you know, more dominant than his. Because I think if I can do that, then I can kind of control that. Now, more often times than not, if you saw, we actually ended up in the strap match where our hands are tied. I know I got a bigger hand than him, so I had to make sure my hand and wrist area was, you know, on point. I wasn't worried too much about the bench press and stuff like that or shoulder shrugs. I wanted to make sure that particular, you know, area of my arm was on top. You know, that's how I train. And now that it's all said and done, I don't know when the next tournament I'm going to go to is, but now it's just back to the normal training, you know?
Generally speaking, though, with arm wrestling, isn't it always hand and wrist off? Like, that's all that really matters. Everything else comes in a far second after that.
Kind of, sort of. I mean, because there's so many styles in our sport. Like for me, I'm not a power puller. You know, who's the guy? Aaron Yersey, right? Out of Oregon, the one, yeah, the bald guy. You know, he's a power puller. You know, I'm not. I'm more of a technician. So I focus more on the technique aspect, where he focused more on the power aspect. Which, you know, when you get a power guy versus a technician, it kind of like, oh, okay, it's the boxer versus the brawler. Makes an interesting matchup. Or you get somebody who likes to catch people as opposed to somebody who's real quick. So styles make matches, what they say. So it's the same in arm wrestling. But we got guys like Jerry Carteret, you know, world champion. Well, you know what? He focuses more on bench press because his move, the tricep press, he's pressing down. He has these big giant shoulders and arms and everything. He's pressing down where, okay, well, maybe that's not my style, but he found a angle, a style, and a lane that works best for him. So he trains the hell out of it, you know? So it all depends on what kind of style you want, and you can critique your exercises toward that style.
That totally makes sense. Right now, I mean, the only finishing move I have is my press, which used to be my only move I had, you know, my whole life. That's all I had. I didn't even know anything about anything else.
Right.
And then the first practice, coach I went to press, and all you got to do is sink your body weight back. And guess what? That press is done. So I learned I can't start with the press like I used to.
Right.
But it's still, the only finishing move I have.
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the press because I've done that move from time to time, but I've been in this sport I can kind of tell. Like for example, my match with David, I wanted to go inside, I wanted to press him too, but the problem was the way he set up and his style didn't benefit me to go in that move because he would have peeled me open. So, like you just said, when you and Doug's go in there, Doug just sits back, loads back, up pressure, and then as soon as you go for your press, it's almost like Doug doesn't have to do a whole lot. He puts himself in a position where if you go, you actually peel your own self out. So it's one of those situations where you kind of go, okay, you know what? The press you got, I'm going to tell you something. It's devastating, but you got to have at least a secondary move because if that's your go-to and that's all you got and someone figures that out, then it's a long day. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100% agree. And actually, it was after the last contest, I decided, so I don't know how to top rope.
Right.
It was just too complicated for me. I just wasn't getting it. So after the last contest, I decided, listen, I'm going to spend every day just trying to practice technique with top rope. Because I felt like my coordination just didn't want to go through the right movements. So I've been practicing it every single day. So I'm excited to go to practice tonight and see, can I practice a top rope with somebody?
Yeah.
That I've never even done before because I sucked at it so bad that it was just a waste of our time. So I was like, well, let's move on to something I can do, like just a basic pull,
right?
Cup and pull, So I do know I need that in my arsenal. And tell me if this is true. The more research I do, the more it seems like the top roll is going to give you by far the most power than any other move, generally speaking, with everybody.
Yes and no because of the angle of it. But once you're in the sport long enough, you're going to realize that there's a counter for every move, right? So for me, because I'm so hand dominant, then yes, the top roll will be the number one priority for me. So I make sure my hand and wrist are like up more than my bicep, because like you got huge biceps and nice shoulders and lats. Inside a press or a hook will probably be more easier for you to learn than a top roll would be, So a lot of it depends on the build too. If you got a big hand, okay, well then this guy's going to clamp down on my hand. He's going to control my hand with his hand, and it's going to work for him. Whereas you're built, Luke, it's like, okay, big shoulders, biceps. I'm like, okay, if he goes inside, the first thing you got to realize is that when all of us see you, you're thinking, okay, I'm not going inside with that guy. Because, it's just the way you're built and the way you're pressing everybody, you made it look easy. So it's kind of like, okay, if I don't get the jump on this guy, then I'm in trouble. Not knowing that you weren't going to be in the open class. But the thing is, though, is that what I'm trying to say is that your structure right now is built for inside, arm wrestling. Now, the thing is, though, if you want to learn how to top roll, by all means, go ahead and do that. It just may come easier for you to press and, go into a hook and get your shoulder engaged, It may be, just second nature to you. Where the top roll, you kind of go, okay, I'm going to learn this in practice, but come competition, I'm going to go with my bread and butter, which is the press and maybe the hook. But learn all the moves if you can, because you never know. Somebody may put you in a move and you got to figure out how to get out of it. You know what I mean?
Totally agree. I got a quick question. Okay, so what, in your opinion, what is the best defensive move? If someone goes to top roll, what do you want to do to stop them from doing that?
I like to go into a defensive hook because for me anyway, because now I got once I get my shoulder involved, now they have to go through my hand and shoulder, So if I don't shoulder commit, then they can kind of open me out to where I'm struggling. And then when they open you out, now all the tension's on your bicep. If you got a big bicep, you can probably hold for a while. But if they open me up and I get my shoulder involved and engaged, now it's a little harder for them to go. So I'm just kind of holding there, and you're already strong. And so the thing is, though, you want to be as close to your body, meaning your hand, as close to your body as much as possible. And, I do bicep workouts, but I don't use my bicep to actually pull because I don't want to drain myself out. Because the last thing this is a mistake I've made, back in the day. I would go, all right, I'm going to learn this hook move. I'm going to work bicep, 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 which is good. The problem was I tried to go into a hook and use it to drag my opponent across. Well, this one tournament I went to up in Nevada, got into a hook match, and next thing you know, it was match number 1. There were 12 dudes in my class, right? I go into a hook war. I finally got the guy down. Problem was my bicep was toast, and I still got the rest of the tournament to go to. So I was pretty much dead in the water. Thank God my top row move kind of, bailed me out of some and kind of relaxed some of my bicep, but I kind of got toast by the time I got to the finals. I was just worn down, and so I ended up taking like fourth. But still, it's just one of those things where I don't use my bicep unless I really have to. So for you, a hook move, your bicep is more of a locking muscle, because once you lock everything in, now you can use your hand and wrist to kind of control your opponent and then take him over to the side for the win.
Right on. Yeah. I definitely feel the most powerful hooking and pulling. I do know I need to work on getting my body into it. I noticed, man, when I tried to pull, horrible body movement on this last tournament, throw more body into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's definitely something on my must work on at practice is more body, less trying to just muscle it down.
And once you really try to, break everything down, it's all about angles, right? And like I said, I can get somebody into a hook, which is fine. It's just like, now what do I do once I'm in this position? And oftentimes that guys get into a defensive hook where I'm going to make sure I might not be able to pin you, but you're not going to pin me. So fine, you got a dead standstill, but at some point you got to go sideways to win. You have to go sideways. So at some point you're going to have some kind of side pressure, because if you don't, you're just going to sit there forever, and then you hope that your opponent makes a mistake and you can take it. But at the end of the day, and I think this is what Todd Hutchins was saying on one of his videos, he goes, honestly, you can't win without going sideways. At some point, whether you top roll, hook, or something, there is no way you're going to beat your opponent unless you go sideways. That's why he focuses straight side pressure, because it makes sense,
Yeah, no, I just watched a video of him yesterday talking about that. Now that's just building that tendon strength in there was like his top priority over anything.
Right. And some people rely on the bench press. I'm going to bench press my ass off to make sure I get that upper pectoral region strong enough so I can side pressure. I don't do it as much because of my shoulder issues. Prevents me from benching a lot like I used to. But so what do I do now for my side pressure? I use bands. Resistance bands, because then, for one, it's easier on my joints, but I can tie bands up to my bench press apparatus, right? And then I can, put my hand in the band, and then I'll put my table as far as I can. Once I create tension, then I'm counting to 10, and then after 10, then I go ahead and try to pin. So that way, that's how I build my side pressure. That's what I do.
Bands, I think I totally agree with you. The more I get into it, I determined this a couple weeks ago. Bands are the number one way to help strengthen your tendons safely. On quick note on the bench press, just a little tip here.
Yeah.
I don't think you need it for arm wrestling, but if you want to bench safely, if you have shoulder injuries like I have, slingshot. Look up the slingshot.
Oh,
patent on it.
Those ones from Mark Bell?
I can't remember. There's only one company that makes it. I can't remember who invented it.
Okay.
It forces your elbows in. It takes away your shoulder pain.
Because I had a buddy of mine who used those.
I couldn't do bench. And as a side note, I used to do occasionally these bench presses where I hook the band up head of above, and then it would grab the weight at the bottom and help you up. So basically, at the bottom part of the bench, it would ease, and at the top part, you get all the weight.
Right.
Which kind of is what the slingshot does. So now, because of one of these doctor clients that I have, who's a surgeon, he was saying, really, when you go heavy bench, if you're going to mess something up, it's at the bottom.
Gotcha.
So he wanted, every time he went heavy, he's like, hey, I want the band on and a slingshot. So since he decided, he insisted on that, I was like, hey, man, anybody that wants to push their limits safely, why not do that? So now, instead of benching in the 300s, I can go up to 550 with support.
Right. No, that makes sense.
Safely, lift super heavy, but safety's always first, because if you get injured, everything's going to be out the window anyways.
No, that makes sense, because I don't feel the pressure unless I actually bring the weight down. That's when I start to feel it.
So assisted band, but the slingshot's number one, man. If I didn't have the slingshot, I wouldn't bench over 135 because it hurts my shoulder too much.
Right. Yeah, it kills.
Game changer.
And it's just my right shoulder. My left shoulder is fine, but I know I had surgery 2014, I think, and I got some bone spurs removed, calcium deposits removed. I don't know if they're back. I don't know, but it's starting to bother me now, where I'm thinking, okay, I'm just going to do push-ups for now, just to kind of at least keep that going. But as far as side pressure, I just use the bands, man. different resistance bands. If it's
I
just
Todd Hutchings, number one, is the JM presses. So
yes.
I do those once a week. But with the JM presses, I noticed I can't control the tension as well as with the band. I can always put the perfect amount, and I can adjust the angle to get multiple angles. And then I'll focus in where I feel some sharp pain. Let's kind of work the area because that needs some work. It's weak right there. So I feel like with the band, you can just dial in, precision, pinpoint where you need to strengthen and hit that area.
Well, the jam presses for Todd is because his style, I mean, whether his wrist is broken back or he has actually got a hook, he's always going sideways. But because he has those elbow muscles down there in that area, so that way it's like, oh, okay, I can still compete at a high level. If I just do my jam presses, and like I said, if you follow Todd Hutchins, it's hey, max day, it's volume day, it's speed day, and the thing about it, you'll realize what Todd was. Someone asked him, "Hey Todd, what's your workouts like?" He goes, "Just go to my channel, all my stuff's on there." So, because some people get a little weird and go, "Well, I'm not going to show anybody what I do because then they might figure me out and beat me." Where Todd doesn't care. Like, look, you still got to beat me on game day. So I'll get all my stuff out there. He has his numbers. He's got his dry erase board. He has his notebook. He's putting all his stuff there. Did you get the lift? Yes or no? If that means, hey, 1 week I'm doing 330, and then the following week I do 330 and a half, I got stronger. I mean, and that's how he looks at it. You have to get every lift. When I come back to that, if I can do 2.5 pounds more or 5 pounds more, I got stronger. That's how I look at it.
Super smart guy to follow. I have been following him. I want to try to take more of his training techniques into mine. My biggest problem, honestly, is every time I go to the gym, I want to get warmed up and then I want to max out.
Yeah.
I just want to. I can't help it. I just want to hey, what can I do today? Can I set a PR? Can I, what can I do before my arm screams at me so much? And I know doing that same thing with the same lift every day can be counterproductive. With that said, quick little story here. So my doctor client, he's always reading articles. He read an article about this doctor who lifts weights, he deadlifts. So he does different deadlifting programs. So one of his programs, he maxed out the deadlifts every single day for 30 days in a row. Every day, maxed out deadlift.
Wow.
The theory is, if in 30 days from now, your family was going to die unless you could increase your deadlift by a certain amount of weight, would you deadlift once a week with your family's life on the line and get 4 workouts before you had to eat that? Or would you do it every day? Well, most guys will probably say, well, I'm going to save my family. I'm going to spend every day doing this as hard as I can. So what happened was he went up and down in weight, but at the end of the 30 days, he made the most progress than any other program.
Right.
With that said, do I think he could have continued? Probably not. I mean, your neuromuscular system has to be going crazy. I mean, that's just nuts. Deadlift every day, but most strength gains he's ever had. So to a certain degree, your body adapts, with the exception, again, your tendons, I think they don't adapt as quick as your muscles.
Right. And like I said, I mean, and every time, like I said, I change my workouts depending on my opponent, depending on what tournament and who's going to be there. Then I go ahead and alternate that. So, at some point, and if you look at Todd, I mean, it's not like Todd's like all of 5'10", maybe 5'11". So it's not like he's 6'3", 275, 280. He's like, hey, I'll take out some of the big guys and beat them, but he's kind of struggling right now, but it happens. He's back to the drawing board. He's like, okay, I must have messed up somewhere. And this is why I like Todd, because he'll sit there, have all his stuff out, and go, okay, where did I mess up at? And I think one time he said one of his videos that if he didn't get the lift, he'll put like a frown face going, okay, I didn't get it that day. Maybe something's going on. I'm going to come back and I'm going to crush that number. So he'll break everything down. Let me go back. I lost my match, 3-0. Let me go back and see what was lagging. If he's doing a dry erase board, he'll look at it and go, I got it. He's an engineer, so he's used to doing that kind of stuff. So, what's that?
I was going to say, well, have you heard about Todd speaking about the 1 rep maxes? He was talking a lot of times when he fails, that doesn't mean he's done with that weight. He has to try at least 3 more times.
Yeah.
And he said most of the time, on his 3rd time is when his body will accept the fact that he has to do it, and he'll actually accomplish that.
Yes. Like when I did with an easy bar because now, I would the most I ever got with a strict curl was I think 170, maybe 175. I can't remember, but that was with a straight bar. But I noticed that it put so much stress on my wrist, I quit doing it. So then it was like I finally got an easy bar, and it's different. So it's a different feel, but and I haven't done it in a while. I was like going, why am I struggling with 160? And then, I had to just go back to it. And I noticed that when I actually do that, I got to 167, I think, or 167.5. But when I got that, I realized that the longer I wait, because it's dead weight, the more I struggle with it. So from the time I pick it up, the clock starts. It's like, all right, if I pick it up, it's just okay, pick it up. Okay, now go. Because I mean, if I hold it any longer, then I'm going to drain all my energy just from holding it. Do you think there's any carryover from that?
Yeah, no, for sure. Once you get the load on your body, you're exerting a lot of energy. And one thing I've noticed, especially with arm wrestling, just an isometric contraction is one of the most brutal things you can do. But if you've never tried it, just flexing your muscles is one of the hardest, most intense workouts you can do. I found out, I was shocked how much time I had to spend trying to pose, and I was never ready for posing. Those guys spend hours every day, which I like to flex, but then I'm done. I don't want to sit there for 1 hour and flex. It's boring and it hurts.
Right.
But it really does build strength and conditioning for sure. So if you're going to flex or exert energy in isometric, you're going to drain energy super quick. I definitely believe that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a good sport to be in. You can do it long enough, where I did the football in the past. I did the rugby, and, my body just couldn't take that kind of punishment anymore. Stumbled upon, arm wrestling. I've been here ever since, and I enjoy it. And I'm actually better at arm wrestling than I was at football. And football was, the love of my life. So it's kind of like, okay, I can do this. And because of this, it keeps me involved because I'm like, okay, I know I got to go. Like today, I'll get in the gym and I'll work on something. I got to focus because if I don't, somebody else is getting better than me. That's just my mentality,
Yes, definitely keeps you in shape for sure. I've definitely lost some body fat and gained some muscle overall.
Right.
Just doing arm wrestling movements because I'm doing it so much. It's such a shock to my system. My legs are actually leaning out a little bit. My chest, even though I haven't been doing any of my normal workouts, I'll be honest with you. Everything is arm wrestling related now. But you hit it intense enough, and your whole body will get conditioned.
Yeah. So
definitely.
Well, my friend, we've been on here for almost 43 minutes and stuff. Is there anything else you want to add before we go ahead and cut this thing?
Yeah, something, really important to me. My strength comes from my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I feel like without, him in my life, I wouldn't be anything. So my number one, key to success for me personally is just trusting in him. Whenever I've trusted in him 100%, he's never let me down one time. The only time I failed is when I try to trust in myself exclusively. So that's kind of like my golden ticket. I am anti-religious. No offense to anyone that's religious out there. I'm just a Jesus follower, and he's all about loving everybody. So I do the best I can to love everybody, respect everybody, help everybody reach their goals. And you will notice this. I saw one thing online, and it had nothing to do with being a Christian or religious. The happiest guy in the world, he tested his hormones, right? So this happiest guy in the world, what was his secret to success? How is this guy the happiest guy in the whole world? He said it was giving to others, loving others.
Right.
So if you love other people, if you give to other people, it's actually going to benefit you probably even more than them. But do it from don't do it from a selfish heart. Obviously, that's going to defeat the purpose. But if you do it in a giving heart, you'll actually benefit and feel better than, any kind of money can give you or anything. So really the key to success is to just love people, help people. You will be more successful. I guarantee. And there's lots of science to back that up. So in a nutshell, I believe if you look into the teachings of Jesus Christ, everything he tells us to do may be hard, but it's going to benefit you and make you feel better and make you more successful. I do believe that if you just break down the raw science and go through it and just go by his teachings only. You know what I mean? So that's what I like to go by. I love it. It pumps me up, man. Makes me feel good. I love feeling good. Definitely high energy. That's why I love arm wrestling and able to explode, turn up that notch. In practice, I'm like I'm there, but I don't go full throttle unless I'm, competing. And then it's let the beast go,
There you go. What we want to say, man, it's an honor to have you on the show, and welcome to our sport. Because I know you can bring a different aspect to the sport, and that's the good thing about when you get into arm wrestling. You're coming from a strength background, because now you can implement some of your theories onto some of your teammates, and they're like, "Oh, okay." And it's kind of like, one hand washes the other, and then next thing you know, boom, now magic is made, because now you learn from arm wrestling from those guys. Those guys learn from the strength and aspect from you. And next thing you know, you put it all together, and now you got something. You know what I mean?
Oh, man. I definitely believe that's true. I have noticed my mind-muscle connection because I've trained a lot with bodybuilding. I'm able to meditate on the area I want to work and isolate and ignore everything else. The more you can isolate, the more, you're going to work the area. So
right.
It definitely has helped me with my arm wrestling, being able to feel what I want to feel and not feel the stuff I, don't want to feel.
Gotcha. Well, I'll tell you what, man, I want to thank you for joining me on the show today. It's a Saturday. I know there's practices, there's tournaments out today. I'm going to try to find one and try to see if someone's going to live feed it and take a watch. I'm going to hang out with the wife today. But my man, Luke, I want to thank you for joining me today. And my friend, you and I will keep in touch.
Definitely, brother. Hey, nice talking to you. Everyone have a fantastic day. Oh, and remember, the decision to own the day is 100% yours because you can make that decision. No one else can make that decision for you.
Right.
So decide you're going to own the day, make the best of it, everyone, and be your personal 100%, whatever that is. Remember, there's always going to be somebody above you, always someone below you. It's more about doing the best you can each day with whatever life throws at you. You know what I mean?
I get it.
Guys, hey, have a good morning, Joe.
All right, take care, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.
And that was Luke Prochnow. And I'm telling you, if you look him up, because he has a YouTube, look him up. He's awesome too. And guy was just stacked, tattoos everywhere. Looked at me. I'm thinking, when I saw this guy, I was like, oh, this dude's about 250, 260. But he came in at 242. And again, first ever tournament, didn't know what was going on, but just mulled right through the competition in the novice division. So give him about a few more years, and with his strength training background, he's going to be another force in the Pacific Northwest. Well, that's all I got. Not normal to have an arm talk this early in the morning on a Saturday, but we did it and we crushed it. So with that being said, there's a tournament somewhere today. Let's find out where that tournament is and let's get it done. Until then, as always, guys, see you when I see you. Y'all be good to each other.